Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yiter Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us as we continue our celebration of the outdoor lifestyle, the history and tradition of hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping and all things fun, all things biologically sound, all things given authority by the DNR, the NRC, and God. How much more authority do you want than that? My name is Mike Avery, and I'm so glad to have you along with us. I look forward to this 3 hours every week here in front of this microphone, where we get a chance to really talk about what's going on in the outdoors, again, here in the great state of Michigan and occasionally beyond. Although my outdoor activities beyond Michigan have been somewhat limited, because normally they would be, say, going up into Ontario or Quebec for a spring or summertime bear hunt. Does not look like that's going to happen at all. So I will be more than content. Although I do have an Ohio whitetail hunt coming up, which is something I haven't done in a long time. I haven't really been into whitetail hunting much at all lately. I haven't left the state for whitetail hunting in years and years and years, and I am looking forward to going down to Ohio. But what I'm doing right now is concentrating on Saginaw Bay Walleye. It is no secret that I love to troll Saginaw Bay Walleye. Listen, there's some great fishing across our state. There are many different species to pursue, many different waters, many different lakes, streams, Great Lakes to be out on. But I live close to Saginaw Bay. I have fished that fishery for more than 30 years. Well, I fished it since the walleye population rebounded years and years ago. I spend a lot of time out there, and I really do enjoy it. But I've got to be honest, I am struggling so far this summer. It's a really weird situation that I find myself in. I have never claimed to be an expert angler, never claimed to be an expert troller, never claimed to be an expert walleye fisherman, but I hold my own. And I catch more than my share of fish, and I have for many, many years. But the way that I've done it is to concentrate on what I call skinny water, shallow water. 9 feet of water or less is what I really like to fish. But that fishery, that part of the fishery, is not there this year. And I finally come to that conclusion, and I had to give up on it. The water up in there shallow is crystal clear, which is not the Saginaw Bay that I've known for 3 decades. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's different. And I have been forced to completely change the way that I fish, not without some struggle and not without trying to make that skinny water work. In fact, I was so desperate to try to get fish going in there up in shallow that I actually ran crawlers the other day. And you know how I feel about night crawlers. And if you're new to the show, look, just understand that my dislike for night crawlers is about 85% a joke. It's just something to talk about because it gets people riled up. But there is 15% of truth in there that I don't like them because I have to troll so slow. That's the main reason. I just don't want to troll that slow. I want to cover some water. But I was so... I don't want to use the word desperate, but I so badly wanted to turn that shallow water fishery on that I agreed to let my buddy Tony run some crawlers up in there the other day, and even that couldn't get anything going. And it was at that point, after spending a couple days in there trolling plastic and not getting fish, that I realized, okay, this just isn't going to work this summer. It's time to try something different. It's time to go out to deeper water, which is where the fish are. And I do not have confidence in that deeper water because it's something that I don't normally fish. Now, when I say deeper water, I'm talking 24, 28 feet, which to you Lake Michigan anglers is like deeper water. You Lake Superior guys are going, deeper water? We get nervous in water that shallow, and I get it. But we all have our own frame of reference, right? And I think it comes down to when I'm fishing shallow water, I know where the fish are. There's a 6-foot column of water where I know those fish are. So it's easy to target them. You can go through there trolling number 7 flicker shads or good old-fashioned Hottentots, 20 to 50 feet behind the boards, and you're going to get fish, at least in the past. Not so this year. So if I go out to 27 feet of water, I have to decide, am I going to concentrate on the fish right on top? Am I going to target the fish 10 to 12 feet down? Am I going to go after those fish laying there on the bottom? You can see the big hooks down there. Are they going to go? So I've got that working on my mind. And so far, I just haven't been able to get the right combination. I've tried flicker shad. I've tried spoons. I've tried lead core. We've tried bouncing offshore tadpoles off the bottom. I've even switched over to jet divers instead of the offshore tadpoles to see if that would make a difference. I've tried trolling slower than I normally would. I've tried trolling faster than I normally would. I've gone out to different areas. I've tried different spots, different hot spots, and I just can't get it going. And it's I for the first time in many years, when I leave the dock with the Angler Quest, I am not confident that I'm going to get into fish. And it's a weird feeling for me. I look good while I'm out there because I'm trolling that big, beautiful Angler Quest with the radar arch and the rocket launcher and all kinds of rods. So I look like I know what I'm doing. But so far, I don't feel like I know what I'm doing. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge that I accept. And that's the way my brain works with these things. I enjoy every minute in the woods or on the water. I have never equated catching fish or harvesting an animal with a quality experience. I've always said it's the experience that is the experience. It's not the catch or the harvest. But there is still a challenge here in my mind because in my mind, I want to be able to figure this out. I want to be able to go out there and know that I've got a plan of attack, that I have a reasonable chance of putting some fish in the boat. Not so much for me because I don't even eat fish, but for the people that are with me on the boat, on the Angler Quest. I want to catch them some fish. So stay tuned. This saga is not over yet. We had planned, I told you last week that we were going to do a Wednesday night live on the Facebook page, the YouTube channel, and on Twitter, that we were going to be live on Saginaw Bay, fishing with Brad Dupuis of Apex Marine. We postponed that until next week for a couple of reasons. The weather forecast called for some pretty decent northeast winds. It would make it just bumpy enough, even on the Angler Quest, that it would be hard to shoot a nice quality Wednesday night live program. Also, Jason Wolverton of the Forward Corporation, who is joining us, his schedule actually worked out better for next week. So look forward to that next week. Wednesday night live. We'll be out there on Saginaw Bay with one of the best big water walleye trollers that I know, Brad Dupuis of Angler Quest. We'll get that done. I'm still waiting on bear tags, as are you. Waiting on elk tags here in Michigan, as are you. We should know the results on that early in July. I'm cautiously optimistic on that bear tag. And I'm absolutely convinced for the first time in my life that I'm going to get a Michigan elk tag. And why is that? Because for the first time in my life, I actually applied for a cow tag. I'm not quite sure why I applied for a cow tag. Because forever I've said if I'm going to hunt a Michigan elk, I want it to be a bull. And for some reason, I got distracted. I was thinking about something else. I said, yeah, I'll just apply for a cow tag. And I'll bet you anything, if I ever am going to get a Michigan elk license, it's going to be this year because I applied for a cow tag. But in thinking about it, Where would I put a bull elk mount anyway? I don't have room for it. So why not just fill the freezer with great tasting cow elk meat? So maybe it'll all work out for the best. You know what? Things always do work out for the best, don't they? My grandpa told me, he said, he said, don't worry about it. Things always work out. And in my life, things have, for the most part, always worked out. You might not think it was for the better at the time, but things have always worked out. So maybe that's the way I need to approach my Saginaw Bay walleye fishing this summer. Stick with it. Don't get too worked up about it. Don't let it bother you too much. Just keep experimenting. Keep out there on the water. Keep enjoying the experience, and things will work out. Thank you, Grandpa. I appreciate that. I'm going to do that. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine show after the break, Dave Mull, the Coyote King, the Kayak Master, the YakMaster, talking about, I'm getting ahead of myself here, the YakMaster talking about fishing out of kayaks. Chad Stewart from the DNR. Got some questions for him about Michigan moose, Michigan elk, and also Michigan whitetails. And then in hour number 2, the Coyote King, Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors. I thought coyote hunting was just for the wintertime. No, these guys are out there now, and they're doing a very, very good job. Jim Francis from the DNR talking about muskies and our state hatchery program. And in hour number 3, one of the best extreme long-range shooters in the world. He's a Michigan guy. His name is Paul Phillips. They're now trying to shoot at 5 miles. Then wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner wraps it all up. That's this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM. And you can hear us, let's go to Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. Newberry is actually near where I'm hoping I will be bear hunting this fall. Cody Norton from the DNR said with 0 points, because I did get a tag up there last year and applying for the third season, he said my odds were only 13%. But in talking with some of the folks up there, including Johnny Bowler, who I hope to be hunting with, he said, Mike, I tell you, he said, my hunters who apply for the third season, even with 0 points, are running about 50%. So I'm hoping that's more of the case, right? But we'll know here in just a few weeks. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry since 1946. Okay, 46, 56. That means they're celebrating 75 years here in 2021. 75 years in business, leading, innovating, coming up with new products for target archers and bow hunters as well. What a tremendous accomplishment. If you've heard this show at all before, you know I love to work with Michigan-based companies. Family-owned companies makes it even better. I don't like dealing with the corporate conglomerates. I don't like dealing, if I can avoid it, with ad agencies or marketing companies. I like to deal with the people who are in charge of the companies, and that way I can feel comfortable promoting their products, endorsing their products, and Boning is one of them. Check out the website, boning.com. That's BOHNING.com, boning.com. All right, well, I told you a little lie, told you a little white lie. I told you that after the break I was going to check in with the YakMaster himself, Dave Mull. I've been trying to get Dave on the show for weeks and weeks now. He's very, very busy, but yesterday he committed. He says, yes, I can do it. I can do it. Well, we went to call him, and now we can't get through to him. So we scrambled. Chad Stewart from the DNR was scheduled to join me later in the show. We made a quick call to him and said, hey, Chad, hate to screw up your morning, but can you give us a few extra minutes? And he said, yeah, sure. I don't know if he was that happy. Pat talked to him. I don't think he was probably that happy. But he agreed to join us, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Chad, sorry to do that to you, but I sure appreciate your flexibility.
Hey, for you, Mike, I'll make the change. That's no problem.
Oh, now you're going to lay a guilt trip on me, aren't you?
That's right. I'm going to do my best.
So listen, how are things in your world at this point in the summer?
It's I'll be honest, it's a little slower. It's not too bad right now, but we're starting to ramp up some of certainly our messaging for deer season. We're getting things finalized for our elk hunt. And, we're looking at, eventually getting back into the office and hopefully resuming life as normal. So those are sort of the things that we're getting ready for in midsummer here.
So you guys still aren't back in the office?
No, I mean, we have permission to work, remotely still. We have permission to attend events, but our offices are still largely closed. That's probably going to change here over the next month, a month and a half, and we're going to start phasing some folks in. But I think by Labor Day, I think we'll probably be open. But listen, I can't make any predictions or say anything. Sure. That's just sort of the direction things are trending. If they continue to trend that way, I think that's what we anticipate, but things are always subject to change right now.
Well, and you guys as a state agency, I mean, you've got to abide by the letter of what the latest mandate and edict is. It's not like a private company that has a little bit of leeway to do what they want. You guys it is what it is for you guys.
Absolutely, and we've been doing our job for a better part of a year remotely, and I think we've been able to get a lot of stuff done as a department and certainly as a division. So it's still nice to have that office camaraderie and have people come in, especially for those that work at like a customer service center, to interact with folks that come in. But we make do, and we'll continue to make do with whatever hand we're dealt.
Chad, you said something a minute ago about messaging. What do you mean by that? What's the message you're trying to get out? And what role does messaging or PR play in what you guys are trying to do as far as from a management perspective?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. And I guess I appreciate the opportunity to talk about that. So one of the things that we always try to focus on, and one of the avenues we do that is, explaining what the regulations are, especially for deer season coming up. We have over 500,000 hunters participate in deer season here in Michigan. A lot of the information that we provide goes out either through social media, or we still utilize our hunting and trapping digest as really a messaging or information tool. So we're focusing on finalizing that hunting and trapping digest. Hopefully that'll be out here in the coming weeks. And then, trying to find out, what we want to talk about and hit those management points, through social media outputs, through press releases, and make sure that they tie in with the regulation changes. So people not only understand what the regulation changes are, but why we're doing it. That's really important.
And do we know what those changes are at this point, or are we in the middle of it now?
We know for most of them. I think most of them are decided. There's a few items that will be decided by the Natural Resources Commission this week. Of course, we're talking on Wednesday. I'm not sure when you air.
It'll be the weekend. Thursday, yeah, it'll be I think probably a done deal by the time people hear this.
Yep. Yeah, so by Thursday they'll have made the decision, and there's usually a press release that accompanies that. But they're all what I would consider pretty minor management changes. They're not going to really impact anything. It's just trying to again clean up some of the language that we've had historically. That we make the joke that as our deer season has built up, it's kind of like building a house room by room. And it doesn't, a lot of people think it doesn't make sense, and there's a reason why that happened. But, what we wanted to do is revisit a lot of our regulations over the past couple of years and make sure that they're not only a lot more simpler to understand, but, more in line with the management direction that we're moving in.
Chad, you talk about, deer season building up. Boy, in the old days, and I hate to sound like an old guy, but I am. November 15th was the opening day of deer season, and there were a few people out there bow hunting earlier. These days, we've got several different seasons, several different early seasons, special seasons. It seems in some ways we've diluted the magic of opening day. What's the reason for these other seasons?
So, I would, I guess, challenge a little bit that we do have those seasons, but they certainly don't have the historical panache that the November 15th has. we've got our youth season. We've got a limited hunt with hunters with disabilities. Those are very limited participation. So even though there's hunting that goes on, we view those as opportunities for individuals to get out and hopefully have a little more of advantage in taking a deer before a lot of the hunters hit the woods and deer patterns change. And then we've got our early antlerless season, which we've had now for over 10 years. That's really a primary effort to try to focus on increased antlerless harvest in some of those primary areas that have historically needed it. Again, not very heavily participated in. If anything, I would say that archery season has a lot more emphasis now than it has had in the past.
Oh, yeah.
When you look at our hunter numbers throughout the archery season have remained fairly stable over the last 10 to 15 years, whereas our firearm hunter numbers have declined pretty substantially. Now, we still have a lot more firearm hunters than archer hunters, but it's pretty clear that there's a lot more emphasis and effort placed during the archery season than the firearm season as compared to what we've had in the past.
You talk about antlerless harvest. I've been hearing from a lot of people who, in fact, they wanted me to bring this up with you about the over-the-counter doe permits, and they've really become. Is it true they become much more liberalized for this season?
Very much so. Yeah, that was one of the major changes that we instituted during the off season, I guess I would say. And that's one of the big things that hunters are going to notice going into this year is that, we really don't have a draw for antlerless licenses in the Lower Peninsula anymore. Hunters can just go out, purchase their antlerless license, and it's no longer DMU specific. So you can purchase your antlerless license and go hunt on any land in the Lower Peninsula. And that again aligns with our management direction, and it aligns with our goal of trying to simplify our regulations.
Does it come down to, as we've talked about in the past, you guys as a department, as managers, still need to kill the same number of deer for a healthy herd, but we got fewer hunters to do it?
Yeah, that's really the bottom line. So part of the messaging that we talked about is that, we are handing out and selling a lot more antlerless licenses than we've had in the past. We don't have the restrictions that we've had in the past, but there's a reason for that. We're not trying to, contrary to, maybe popular belief, we're not trying to decimate or eliminate our deer population. But you look at the numbers over time, and, Mike, we shoot about 100,000 fewer antlerless deer today than we did 20 years ago. So, our population back then could sustain it. Maybe our numbers are a little bit lower now, but, certainly not to the level where it would account for 100,000 fewer antlerless deer. So we need to maintain either a current or even an increased antlerless harvest. And we know that our hunter numbers over time are going to continue to decline. Now, we've had a nice little boom here over the past couple of years with hunter numbers based on the COVID and people sort of refinding the outdoors and hunting. But long-term projection is we have more people getting out of the sport than getting into it.
It will be interesting to see what those hunter numbers look like this fall for sure. Chad, we got to take a break. If you can hang on with me a few more minutes, I'd appreciate it. Coming up after the break, I want to talk to you about any concerns about EHD, the weather being the way it is. You mentioned getting ready for the elk hunt. I want to talk a little bit more about that. And we'll see whatever else is on Chad's brain. We're talking with Chad Stewart, who is the big game specialist for the DNR, michigan.gov/DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. He is the guy who is one of the guys who is intimately involved in whitetail management in our state. Of course, everything has to go through the NRC. Chad made a comment about, despite what some people think, we're not trying to decimate the deer herd. Well, that's not what I saw on Facebook. I'm saying that in jest, of course. We'll take a break. And finally, we did get in touch with Dave Mull. So Dave will be joining us at the end of the hour. So more with Chad Stewart, who has been very flexible with his time, and I do appreciate it, coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK. That's 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Rapid River Knife Works, rapidriverknifeworks.us. Custom-made, handmade knives in the UP. I mean, listen, I've got a knife in my pocket right now. You probably do as well. Why not carry and use a knife from a Michigan-made knife maker? Rapid River Knife Works. Chris Durson there has been making knives for, 3 decades or something like that. He and the craftsmen there at the shop do a wonderful job. I would encourage you to stop by their showroom in Rapid River. It's beautiful, beautiful place. And check out the website, rapidriverknifeworks.us, rapidriverknifeworks.us. While you're online, of course, my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. We're getting closer to working on revamping that site. Or head on over to michigan.gov/DNR for all things hunting and fishing in Michigan. Talking with Chad Stewart right now, the big game specialist for the DNR. Moose, elk, whitetail are under his purview. Chad, any concern yet about EHD? Are we starting to move that direction?
Yeah, it's concerning. We haven't obviously identified it yet. It's a little early in the year for hemorrhagic disease to be seen. There's some research in the past that showed that it's really correlated strongly to the drought, specifically in the month of July. So that's something that we're always going to keep an eye on. But, for those listeners who aren't familiar with EHD, stands for epizootic hemorrhagic disease. It's the disease that essentially kills deer within about a week to 2 weeks, and they're generally found in and around water in late summer and early fall. It's spread by a small biting no-see-um, like what they call a midge. And it's a virus. It can't be transmitted from deer to deer, but it's basically gone from the midge to the deer. And it's not always fatal, but in many cases it is. There's several different varieties of it. Some seem to be more lethal than others. To answer your question, no, we haven't seen any of it yet. It's a little early for that, but we do. It is associated with drought, and we are concerned that it could be an issue in the future unless we start getting some more rain. But
nothing yet.
Nothing yet. No, nothing yet. It's really difficult to predict where it will happen. Also, so that's the other thing too. It's really a wait and see kind of pattern.
Speaking of disease, haven't heard much about CWD lately. Does that mean we're out of the woods?
No, we're going to be dealing with CWD for quite a while. There's not a lot of surveillance that goes on at this time of the year. It's far more efficient for us to partner with, obviously, our hunters and getting them in through check stations, and then developing relationships with taxidermists and processors, rather than have our staff go out and look for sick or dying or dead deer and having them tested. It's far more efficient and I think a better use of our dollars to work closely with hunters to make sure that happens. So most of the updates occur during the hunting season. We know that we have the outbreak in Montcalm and northeastern Kent County. That's not going away. There's some local areas in parts of Gratiot and Jackson County that obviously have piqued our interest, and then we're still doing surveillance up in southern Dickinson County and the Upper Peninsula to try to really understand and quantify the magnitude of what's going on up there.
You also said you guys are working on the elk permits right now. When will we know? What's the date that information will be released?
I don't know the exact date, but it should be next month. Early July,
right?
Yeah, it should be next month. Early to mid-July is generally the time frame. And, this year, just like last year, we have 260 state permits available. So that's as high as we've been for quite some time. Our elk population is doing really well. We have an estimated 1,200 elk in the northern lower, with our confidence interval probably around 1,000 to 1,400. So our elk population is doing well, and that stands to reason that we have more opportunities for hunters. So we did see a lot of interest this year in the drawing. So there were more applications this year than even we had last year.
Really?
So that's encouraging.
Wow.
That's encouraging that we had.
Yeah, it's encouraging unless you want to get an elk tag. Hey, real quick, Chad, because we're almost out of time, and I had told you we were going to talk about Michigan moose. We didn't really get to it, but how is our Michigan moose herd in the Yup doing?
They're just sort of chugging along. I think we have about 500 on our last survey from 2019. They're pretty stable. The growth rate has been very slow over recent years, but compared to what other states have been seeing, I know Minnesota's seen a pretty drastic decline in their moose population, even though they still have more moose than we do. Their numbers are trending in a completely opposite direction, but we're stable and just slightly increasing, and they're still pretty rare, but they're there and they're hanging on.
Chad, appreciate your time. Thanks for your flexibility. We'll talk again.
Sounds good, Mike. Take care.
Chad Stewart of the DNR, michigan.gov/DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. He doesn't give me good. He doesn't make me feel good about getting that Michigan cow tag. So maybe the fact that I put in for a cow tag this year isn't going to make a difference. I still say my best chances and your best chances of getting a Michigan elk permit are through the pure Michigan hunt. We'll take a break. When we come back, we are going to connect with Dave Mull, the YakMaster, right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. You can hear the show in Tawas on WIOS, AM and FM, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And you can hear us in Lansing on WILS, 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your mid-Michigan tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. You know I love that. For more info, check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Beautiful boat launch, great ship's store, wonderful marine shop, just a great place, linwoodbeachmarina.com. I want to turn our attention now to something that I've been threatening to get involved in for years, or at least take him up on his offer, but I haven't yet, and that's to get out in a kayak. I just can't leave that beautiful Angler Quest, but I'm convinced, Dave Mull has tried to convince me that if I get out in a yak, I'm going to fall in love with it, and he would know because he is the YakMaster. Dave, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I am well, Mike. Things going well with you?
Yeah, going real well. I appreciate you asking. I'm actually struggling a little bit on Saginaw Bay. That beloved skinny water that I love is crystal clear, and so I've had to shift my tactics into deeper water, and I haven't quite figured it out yet. But how about you?
Oh, I've been doing pretty well fishing. I'm having a banner year in little tournaments.
Oh, good.
And I'm starting to think there's a lot of luck involved in doing well in tournaments.
How so?
You know,
How so?
Well, like last night, okay, we're on Sessions Lake in Sessions State Recreation Area. And we go through this huge thunderstorm. And in the midst of it, I, of course, don't go in. I'm not afraid of lightning. If it's my time, it's my time. So I'm out there fishing, and I'm like, okay, what would KVD do? Well, he would probably seek shelter, but I figured he'd probably put on a spinnerbait. So I put on a spinnerbait, which I almost never fish, and I caught my fourth fish, right? So I have it in the midst. I mean, this is a downpour. It's like the proverbial cow peeing on a flat rock, you know? I mean, it is coming down. And I'm trying to take a picture of this fish with my phone in the midst of it. And my phone's getting tangled up in my poncho, and the fish is on the ruler, and he slips off. And I thought he went back in the lake. So after a good round of cursing, I went back to fishing. Well, about my third cast, I hear bump, bump, bump underneath my seat. And I have no idea how that fish went over the side of the kayak and ended up underneath my seat. That's got to be luck.
It's got to be something.
So,
got to be something.
Yeah. So anyway, I ended up catching the big fish of the tournament because a buddy of mine came by and said, "Hey, this is what I had one break off on," and tossed me a grub, put it on. My second cast, I caught big fish of the tournament, and I finished second.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's luck.
Well, and I don't know about luck, but, you have been a huge promoter of kayaks for years and years, and it feels like you guys are really getting traction. I mean, it's a big deal these days.
It really is. And, it's such a great way to get off the shore and get out fishing. And, whether or not you do tournaments, you can take kayaks where you can't take even an angler quest,
Well, that's for sure.
Although, I love your boat, by the way. But once I started fishing kayaks, my poor Miracraft has not been used in a year and a half. It's still under cover, So, I think I winterized it 2 years ago.
So why is that? I mean, what's the appeal? Because, you were a big water troller for many, many years. What is it about these kayaks that have just changed the way you look at fishing?
Well, it's so much easier. As far as just throwing it in the back of the truck and going. It's not that hard to hitch up a boat and you got all your stuff aboard and you can fish. But I just like being able to just take a truck, not worry about trailer bearings and all that kind of stuff and go. And there's something about fishing in a kayak that is so different from fishing in a boat that you're just down close to the water. You're stealthier. You can get closer to fish, I think. Than you can in most boats with a trolling motor. And it's just a quiet, relaxing, fun, exciting way to catch fish. I mean, you can catch 3-pound bass and tow you around. That doesn't happen in a big old Ranger or something.
I feel like maybe it's a more intimate way to fish.
It is. And that's another thing that I enjoy about it is that you really have to consider what the weather's going to give you because whereas in a bass boat, you can put on your, 100-pound thrust trolling motor and battle against anything. In a kayak, although there are a lot of kayaks now that have bow mount trolling motors, you're better off if you figure out what the wind's going to help you with, So,
yeah. Dave, where do we learn more about you online and kayaks in general?
Well, I write a column for Bassmaster Magazine, Bass by Yak.
Bass by Yak.
And I'm still a monthly contributor with mostly kayak stuff for Woods and Water News. I still don't have my own website. I really need to get more involved in social media, which, us dinosaurs all say we're going to do. Although, and not that you're a dinosaur, Mike, but you're doing an excellent job.
I am a dinosaur. I admit that. David, hey, listen.
You're good at social media.
I don't know if anybody's really good at social media, but we try. Dave, always a pleasure. I'll let you get back to work, and I'll look forward to reading your comments and articles and stuff on yak fishing. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, we'll change gears completely and talk about summertime coyote hunting here in Michigan.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yiter Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us as we continue our celebration of the outdoor lifestyle. This is, first and foremost, Outdoor Magazine Radio is a radio show. It seems crazy to have to say that. But the lines have been blurred recently so much between radio and podcasting. And that's either, from my perspective, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. I love podcasts. I love podcasting. It gives people a chance to reach an audience with minimal expense, with minimal equipment needed. But, this radio show is something that's kind of unique. There aren't really many statewide syndicated radio shows here in Michigan. And I've been able to make that happen. And it's taken a lot of years to build up the network, to get the number of affiliates. Now, affiliates come and go. I mean, stations get sold and new people come in and they want to try something different. I get that, but we've got a good solid base of stations around the state. And I do think the best way to listen to Outdoor Magazine Radio, if you can, is on your local AM or FM station. There you get your local news and weather and sports, and the radio stations get the content of the show before the podcast version is uploaded. So there's another reason to listen to your local radio station. But if you can't, if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, or if your local affiliate doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, there is a way to get the content as a podcast. I know everybody has a podcast, and I have a podcast too. The podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine Radio Show can be heard on the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. As I have alluded to the last couple of weeks, we're in the early stages of doing a little bit of a revamp of the website. I like the contents that's there, but we want to upgrade the look of the website. But it's still a very viable, very functioning website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I also put the podcast up on the Mike Avery Outdoors Facebook page. You can listen to it on Amazon Music, on Audible. I'm a huge Audible fan. I listen to a lot of audiobooks on Audible. So it's cool to have the podcast there now. You can actually listen to it on Twitter as well. It's on LinkedIn, iTunes. Of course, all podcasts are on iTunes. It's on Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player FM, Deezer, Radio.com, and I even put an audio version of the radio show, the podcast, on YouTube. And we get people who watch/listen to it on YouTube. So anywhere that you get your podcasts from, that you consume your podcast, you can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine Radio Show. But regardless of how you are hearing my voice, thank you very much. I do certainly appreciate it. While I'm doing this blatant self-promotion, I want to put a plug in for my monthly podcasts. These are not radio shows, just podcasts for Jay's Sporting Goods, Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, Killer Food Plots, Polar Craft Boats, and Shadow Hunter Blinds. In fact, when we wrap up the show this week, the radio show, we will do podcasts for Jay's Sporting Goods and Killer Food Plots. So I would encourage you to check those out as well. I used to think of, when I think of summertime activities here in Michigan, I'm primarily thinking about fishing. Yeah, there's some early season whitetail scouting going on, and there's, people hunting woodchucks and things like that. But I used to think of predator hunting, primarily coyote hunting, as a wintertime activity. But man, am I wrong there. If you go to the Facebook page right now, you're going to see an awful lot of pictures of smiling hunters sitting over coyotes. I mean, it is a year-round deal these days. And I tell you, Michigan is blessed with some really good coyote hunters. But Randy Budde and the guys over at Savage Dog Outdoors are kind of in a class by themselves. Randy just keeps putting them down. And it seemed like a good time to have him here on the radio show, and he's agreed to join me. Randy, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing real good. Listen, you don't take a break. You're out there year-round these days, aren't you?
Yep, I go year-round. When the snow gets deep in the winter, I don't go too much, but other than that, that's about the only thing that holds me back.
Obviously there's some obvious differences in the weather and such, but how is coyote hunting in the summertime? How's it different than wintertime?
Actually, it's better in the summertime. I guess it ain't I do it the same way year round. I use different sounds at different times of the year, but other than that, it's all pretty much same year round. But of course, a lot more fields are open to hunt in the wintertime or in the spring, but because later on in the summer, the crops start getting up.
Sure.
You can only hunt certain fields, but it's nice because it changes. They'll be in another month or so, they'll be harvesting the wheat, and so that'll open them fields up. And the cornfields in a week or two are going to be too tall to see anything in. So it's constantly changing in that respect. Well, and that's got
to help keep it interesting too.
It does, and then too, it also gives that spot a break because coyotes are very easy to educate, and so you want to be real careful you don't educate them, because once you educate them, it's pretty hard to get them called in.
As many people as are out coyote hunting in Michigan these days, there's a bunch of people out there trying to educate them.
Yeah, yes, there is. And it makes them harder to get.
And is one of the keys to your success then, Randy, are you the only guy who has access to these properties? Because I ask this because I'm thinking if somebody who's new to coyote hunting comes in on a farm that you've been hunting and they educate these animals, it's going to hurt your chances.
Yeah, yes, it will. A lot of my landowners, I think they only just let me hunt their property because I am fairly effective at it. But there is some of the properties that other people's hunts, and usually I don't do near as good there. But I spend a lot of time getting lots of property to hunt, and so that helps too. A lot of places I might not hunt for a month or two, and so it kind of gives them a break.
Well, you say fairly effective. Do you ever come home empty-handed these days?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've been going through a slow streak here recently. Like I went from the 18th of last month until about a week ago, and never even seen a coyote. And I was hunting a fair amount. It's funny, it goes in streaks. You'll go a week or so at a time and never see a coyote. But then when they want to respond to the call, it can be really good then. I've had some months where I've hunted hard and maybe only get 8 coyotes all month, and then I've had other months where I've killed 26 coyotes in a month.
Huh. And is it moon phase? Is it barometer? What, have you been able to find any kind of a pattern there at all?
Boy, I wish I could say I have. I have not found any pattern at all that's of any use. I don't like to hunt when there's a full moon, because unless it's cloudy, I don't like when it's bright out there. But other than that, I have not seen anything. I think maybe it's just different times of the year. They're feeding on different stuff, and so they're filled up. I know, like here a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was more than that. Maybe it was the first of last month. I was in a hayfield and I seen 2 coyotes, and they were eating the hay out in the field.
Really?
Yeah. It was before it was cut.
Yeah.
But you could see them grab a mouthful and eat it, and I've seen them eating wheat and stuff. So I don't know if they're filling up on that or what the deal is. Right now is probably from now and for the next month or two, it's my favorite time to hunt, because I use fawn distress call a lot, and it's exciting out there. Not only can you get a coyote charging in, but them does, they get running around you, and it makes you a little concerned at times that they're going to run right over the top of you. But so it's exciting. You don't know what you're going to call in.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool. Randy, I got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, let's talk more about that. Let's talk about this this concept of using a fawn bleed or a fawn distress, and how you can get involved in summertime coyote hunting. I find it interesting that if a guy of Randy's level, his experience and his expertise goes through a little bit of a dry spell, folks who are just getting into this, you got to be prepared. You got to put your time in. You're not going to go out and knock down a couple of song dogs every time you go out there. It's just not going to happen, even for top tier hunters like Randy. By the way, you can learn more about Randy and follow his hunting adventures on Facebook, on the Savage Dog Outdoors Facebook page. I think they're on YouTube as well, so I'll look for them there. But we'll take a break. More with Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors talking about summertime coyote hunting right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on WKYO 1360 AM and on WIDL 92.1 FM. And you can hear us in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, AM and FM, 1240 AM and 100.7 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by my friends at Speedy Blaze. Speedy Blaze is a safe, clean, water and insect-resistant alternative to firewood. It's safe to cook over because it's made from recycled hardwood. It burns hot. It burns clean. It's easy to start. You can cook over it. You can put it in your backyard fire pit, your grill, your fireplace. You can transport it from place to place because you don't have to worry about insects. I'm telling you, it's the way to go. We put on the patio, I've got one of those solo stoves, and all of the fires in there have been Speedy Blaze fires, and they burn right down to ash. I mean, there is no residue left at all. You use the Speedy Sparks to get the fire going. It's like one match or one flick from the lighter, and boom, you got a fire. Really slick, and they're a Michigan-based company. And you know how much I love that. Check them out online. Oh, and their new grilling pellets are a great way to smoke stuff. Cheese, fish, chicken, whatever. Check it all out online at speedyblaze.com. That's speedyblaze.com. Also, while you're online, of course, check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And head on over to Facebook and YouTube and look for Savage Dog Outdoors. That's Savage Dog Outdoors. Randy Budde is one of the guys behind Savage Dog Outdoors. He's a veteran coyote hunter, an expert predator hunter. And Randy, these days, you're hunting, almost exclusively at night now, aren't you?
Yeah, I seldom ever go in the daytime. You can get them in the daytime. I just prefer night. If you're just getting into coyote hunting, I would recommend you just going in the early mornings or in the evenings, just before dark. The cost is a lot cheaper, and you can get a feel for if it's something you really want to do, because coyote hunting, you do spend a lot of time out there not seeing nothing. Nighttime, it costs a fair amount of money to get the gear to use it. So before you spend that much money, you need to go in the daytime when it don't cost you so much and see if it's something you really like.
Well, that makes great sense. But the expense you're talking about are your optics. What are they? Thermal, infrared? What are you using these days?
Yeah, I use all thermal. That takes a thermal scanner, and then also a thermal rifle scope. And the cheaper, the bottom of the line thermals are usually a couple $1,000, and you get into a decent rifle scope, you're going to spend pretty close to $4,000.
So, I see what you're saying. Then, yeah, you guys are serious at that level.
Yeah, to get in nighttime, you can use night vision scope, but you really should have a thermal scanner to look with. So then you're talking about probably a $2,000 scanner and probably $700 to $1,000 you can get into a night vision scope.
What happened to the days of just going out there with a real high-powered red lens light?
Yeah, you can do that. You're not going to be as effective. You are going to spook some coyotes, but you will kill some too. You can get them in the daylight. I mean, it's nice in the nighttime because we just go out there and stand in the middle of the field and we got the darkness to hide us. Whereas, obviously, you go in the daytime, you got to try to get hidden some, and you really got to watch your movement because they do have good eyesight. They have good nose, and they have quite the will to live.
How is their coyote? How is their nighttime vision?
You know, I don't think it's real good. It's a lot better than ours, obviously, but if they're out there 40, 50 yards from you and it's a good dark night, they cannot see you.
Okay.
You can get away with movement and everything, and they can't see you.
But it's their nose you've got to beat then.
Yeah, and it's a funny thing with their nose. It's not like hunting deer. That coyote, he's going to want to get downwind of that sound, and I think it's you have better luck if you give him an opportunity to do that. Is what I'm saying. If the wind is blowing 100% away from where he's at, he may not want to come into that call because it's such a long ways for him to circle around. But if you got that wind kind of quartering across the field from where he's going to go, and then he's pretty likely to work his way downwind. Most of the coyote you shoot are trying to work their way downwind to that sound.
You talk about distance. How far away, under the right conditions, and I realize it's going to vary from night to night, but how far away can you realistically expect to call a coyote in from?
You know, sometimes I think sometimes they'll come close to from 3/4 of a mile or maybe even farther.
Wow.
It depends on how willing they are that night. I've seen them come across some big, huge fields, and they'll just run all the way across the field to you on a good night.
And how is that the norm? Just come charging in, or do they usually sneak in? How do they respond? How do they react to your calls?
Yeah, that varies night to night too. Sometimes they're just charging in for the kill. A lot of that depends on the sound you're using. A lot of times we'll use a pup distress type sound or a fight type sound, and sometimes with them they come charging in so hard that they'll run right up hard right up to the call and turn around and run just as hard out. And a lot of times then we'll get away. And then other times you'll get some of them, they'll just hang back there 80 or 100 yards and just kind of slink around. They just don't want to commit that last little bit. And those are actually easier to kill because it's easier to get a standing shot at them.
So you're set up in the middle of a field. This is after dark. You got, an electronic caller? Do you have any kind of a decoy at all, Randy?
No, I do have a decoy, but it's more for daytime use. It actually does have a light on it that shines up on the little flipper thing right there, but I don't use it. It's not necessary, especially after dark. I think if you're bobcat hunting in the daytime, that decoy would be a big advantage.
Gotcha. So let's go back to this fawn distress call. Tell me how you use that.
Well, I'll usually start out with some type of coyote vocal to make them think there is a coyote there. But then some of the fawn distress sounds I use has a coyote barking in there and growling along with the fawn bleat. But just I'll turn that on and I'll play it for 8-10 minutes. And like I said before, it's exciting. And this is a good time of the year to do it. It's just the fawn distress is just starting to turn on now, and because they do really prey on a lot of fawns. This time of the year, that's probably one of their big diets is is the fawns, and it's a good time to get them out of the coyotes out of the population because it helps save on the fawns. You know, if you got a lot of landowners have deer hunting property and they want them coyotes out of there, well, this is a good time of the year to get them out of there. You're not going to never keep them out of there, but if you thin them out, it really helps on them people's deer population in that area.
Well, and you bring up an interesting point, you know, because some people will say, "Oh, geez, I never hunt something I'm not going to eat, or I never kill something I'm not going to eat." Well, then I say, do you have mouse traps? Have you ever used a mouse trap? And that kind of blows that out of the water. But you know, most people don't eat coyotes, but it's a predator control. It helps the other critters out there because in some parts of the state, many parts of the state, we got more coyotes than we've ever had.
Oh yeah, that the coyotes. I don't think are native to Michigan, and because we used to have wolves, and they killed any coyotes that get around, but. Yeah, the coyote population is on the increase, and I don't think there's anything we can do about it because they're smart enough that you're not going to kill a lot of them off, and yeah, they're here. They're definitely here to stay.
I never remember seeing a coyote as I was a kid growing up on the west side of the state. Now I see them all over the place.
Right. I grew up in this area, and that's been a long time ago, and I never heard or seen of a coyote around here until in the early to mid 80s is the first coyote I have ever known to be in this area, and I've lived in this same area my whole life.
What part of the state is that, Randy?
It's in the west part of the state.
Okay. Well, it's developed, you know, the onset or the resurgence or whatever you want to call it of the coyotes has really created a lot of fun opportunities for guys like you, that's for sure.
Yeah, I love it. But I'm retired, so I got a lot of time to scout out new ground and then to going at night, like this time of year, don't get good and dark till 11 o'clock, and like I went last night, and I got home at 3:45 this morning. So,
hey, with the weather the way it's been, that's the best time of day to be out there, though. It's a little bit cooler.
It is. I hate the hot weather, and so it didn't get very cool last night, but it was a lot better than it was during the daytime.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a real good night, but I did get one coyote.
Well, I am amazed and impressed with how well you guys do at Savage Dog Outdoors. I would encourage people to head on over to the Facebook page or check out the YouTube channel, Savage Dog Outdoors. You can see what Randy's talking about. They also have some really, really cool video of their hunts. You can see how the coyotes respond to the calls. They've even got the shots on video as well. Very cool. Randy, keep up the good work. Keep sharing your pictures on my Facebook page, and you and I will stay in touch.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Mike.
Randy Budde of Savage Dog Outdoors, always a pleasure. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, Jim Francis, a fisheries biologist from the DNR, joins me to talk about muskies, and then we'll go right into the Ask Avery segment talking about our state's fish hatcheries. That's also with Jim Francis of the DNR right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the show in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. You know, WTRX was actually my first affiliate station years and years ago. So it's wonderful to be working back with the folks at Trix. You can also hear us in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. And we'll head to the Sioux. Yes, ESPN 1400 WKNW. I'm hoping and praying that I'll be passing through the Sioux on the way to Ontario in August for a bear hunt. But realistically, my heart wants that to happen, but my brain knows that it's not going to happen. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. OTG is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website, mucc.org. That's mucc.org. And a reminder, if you want to save 25% on your MUCC membership, use the promo code Mike, all caps, MIKE, and you can save that 25%. That's what I did. I used my own promo code to save money on my membership. It didn't seem right, but I did it anyway. I want to turn our attention now to Lake Erie, the musky fishery there. We're talking with Jim Francis. Jim, if I remember right, you're the Lake Erie coordinator for the fisheries coordinator, right?
Yeah, that's right, Mike. I cover Southeast Michigan and including basically anything that drains into Lake Erie falls within my jurisdiction.
Well, that's a pretty interesting and a pretty diverse fishery.
Yeah, it is. And it's perfect time to be talking about it. The Muskie opener just happened this past Saturday, so provides plenty of opportunities across the state. We've got about 116 lakes across the state that we manage, that have muskie populations that we manage. And I'm fortunate to have probably one of the premier muskie lakes with Lake St. Clair right in my backyard. So lots of great opportunities throughout the state.
And I talk here about the Lake St. Clair muskie fishery fairly often on the show. I don't talk as much about, those inland northern fisheries. It's like two different worlds, though, isn't it? Yeah, it is. I mean, it is completely apples and oranges. I mean, you're chasing the same critter, but it's a different environment on Lake St. Clair. It's kind of like the Super Bowl. I mean, just the density and size of fish is so much greater down there that it's definitely apples and oranges. Now, there is now in the state, if you catch and keep a fish, there are some regulations on that. Is that statewide or is that just Lake St. Clair?
No, that's statewide. And so a short time ago, we went, the statewide size limit is 42 inches, and it used to be one fish per day. We were concerned about, in order to maintain it, muskies are a relatively low density fish. So in order to maintain the populations and have a quality fishery, we were looking to reduce mortality. So the way we did that was we went to one fish per year per angler. And it was a little clunky when we started that regulation. You had to get a kill tag for it, kind of like you do for any deer, turkey, whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't working out real well. So we've switched over to an online system. Real simple. It's michigan.gov/registerfish. It's the same hotline that we use for registration of sturgeon as well. And there's a 1-800 number, and you can find that in the fishing regulation book. But that's a good way for us to collect information and better track what's going on at a statewide level.
Muskie anglers, though, they're not like salmon or walleye anglers in that they're out meat fishing. There's not many folks who keep muskies these days, are there? No,
it's definitely the exception. Very high catch and release ethic within the muskie community. So last year, I pulled up the numbers real quick before I jumped on, and I think we were at 44 muskies that were harvested statewide. About half of those came open water, half of those came through the ice. But it's people fish for muskie for that trophy experience, and the way you do that is you got to recycle fish and put them back out there and keep them growing.
Jim, how accurate do you think that number is? I'm actually shocked that officially only 44 muskies were kept in Michigan last year.
Yeah, we're not sure. I mean, to be honest, we don't know. So that went into effect a few years ago, and we saw an increase over time. Each year we'd see a few more fish registered. And so certainly part of that is people weren't familiar with the system. They're so part of that is as people become aware of it, they are following the regulations and reporting those. But we think it's fairly accurate. I mean, it's like you said, it's not a fish that people harvest very often, and to the extreme. A lot of the clubs on Lake St. Clair, they build these massive live wells for muskies. Yeah. They call them CPR tanks, catch, photograph, and release. So it's definitely people like to return those fish to the water when they can.
We're talking with Jim Francis here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. He is the Lake Erie Fisheries Coordinator. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, I want to go into our Ask Avery segment this week, and I want to change the focus a little bit to our state's fish hatcheries, and that'll be part of the Ask Avery segment with Jim Francis. By the way, the website michigan.gov/registerfish is where you want to go. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. And you can hear us in Holland on WHTC, AM and FM. That's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by my friends from Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way the Ask Avery segment works is this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. The best way to get a question to me is to send it to me by email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. But I also get questions, social media, private messages, or whatever. And this is not a specific question from a specific person, but it's a topic that I've been asked about, frequently over the last couple of years. And that's our state's hatchery program. How does this work? How do we stock fish? How do we plant fish? And I thought as long as we had Jim Francis on, it would be a good opportunity to delve into that a little bit. Jim, that's a topic you're well versed in, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably one of the most frequently asked questions we get is, hey, I live on Lake XYZ. How come I don't get stocked with walleyes or whatever their favorite fish is?
Yeah,
so absolutely. That there's interest in stocking for sure.
Well, how is that determination made?
So it starts at the local level. So we've got different management units, and they go out and do surveys on waters. Some of them are general surveys just to assess the general fish community, and others they do targeted surveys. For example, down here in our unit, we went out on Union Lake and did a walleye and northern pike population estimate this spring. So that gives you your baseline data. And then we've also got a number of, I guess for lack of a better term, like habitat suitability index models that we use. Frankly, some species just aren't going to survive in certain lakes, whether if they're too shallow or too warm. And so people don't like to hear that, but, our responsibility is to manage the resources, efficiently. And so we don't want to stock fish in a lake if we know they're not going to survive.
Sure,
so all of that gets factored into it.
And don't we have warm water hatcheries and cold water fish hatcheries too?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got most of our warm water fish production takes place at Wolf Lake. We've got 5 hatcheries statewide. A lot of it is geared towards cold water fish, trout, stocking inland waters and Great Lakes. But we're actually really excited this year up at Thompson State Fish Hatchery. We just finished a major renovation up there, an expansion to include warm water raising options up there. So we're going to be raising both walleye and muskie up at Thompson, and that was about a $12 million upgrade.
Wow.
It was a significant investment, but it's and the other component of that too is not just focusing on the fish numbers, but a big part of that was biosecurity. Making sure fish health is a huge issue and diseases are a major concern. So making sure that we can raise fish and not bring diseases into the existing fish, and then as we go stock those fish, you're potentially spreading problems. So having that biosecurity to be able to handle those fish and quarantine them properly to make sure we've got a quality product going out is really important.
Are we getting all the eggs for our hatcheries? Are they coming from Michigan, or are we going outstate at all?
Well, on top of mind, I know for sure, like, for example, our Arctic Grayling program that we're working on right now, those eggs are coming from the state of Alaska.
Sure,
so that's a quick one I know is coming from out of state. All of our walleye and muskie are in state. Chinook, cohos. I know, the states do a really good job of sharing. So especially on the Lake Michigan side, if one agency is short fish, others typically cover. So there is some trading that goes on within the Great Lakes, but the majority of our fish are from state sources, or in some species we actually have brood stock. So we actually hold adults in our hatcheries, and we just get the eggs from the adults at the hatchery to maintain the program. So
well, that's interesting. I didn't realize that was the case. And you mentioned grayling. That's a whole other topic right there.
Yeah, that's one of the new initiatives, and it's kind of a learning process, but it's we're making some progress, and that's kind of a new initiative and something we're excited about.
Jim, let's get you back on in the future and talk more about this grayling, because I've had a lot of people asking about that as well.
Yeah, you know what? I know enough to be dangerous. We've got I'll be that. I'll admit that up front. So it's been there is a separate initiative that's working, and it's really working with partners is kind of what's driving this. So we can certainly put you in touch with somebody much more informed than I am for a future show if you're interested.
Yeah, Jim, I am interested. Let's follow up on that. I appreciate your time, Jim Francis from the DNR. For joining us on this edition of the Ask Avery segment. Going back to his previous conversation, the website, michigan.gov/registerfish. And as always, I have to thank the folks at Security Credit Union for helping to make the Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. When we come back, after the top of the hour, one of the best extreme long-range shooters in the world, and he lives right here in Michigan. His name is Paul Phillips, and he'll be joining me here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yiter Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Yes, indeed. This is the big guy, Mike Avery. Ken Hunter, thank you for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. As we are sitting in the studio right now, thank goodness it is an air-conditioned studio. Pat Johnston says he just popped his head out the door here, and he said it is indeed hot and muggy, as it has been now for several days. I haven't really looked at the forecast. I think it's supposed to be this way for a few more days yet. It feels, man, doesn't it feel more like August, or hasn't it felt more like August, or at least late July, than it has early June? But look, it's Mother Nature. She does what she wants to do, and even in today's technologically advanced and society, we still can't control Mother Nature. And that, to me, that's part of the appeal. We can't control Mother Nature. We can't control the weather. We have limited control over the critters that we're pursuing. In my case, my beloved Saginaw Bay Walleye are giving me fits so far this year, but that's part of the appeal, right? At least it is for me. It's the challenge of trying to, I don't want to say master, because I don't think we ever, and I certainly never master my outdoor pursuits, my hunting and fishing activities, but maybe trying to become proficient or as good as we can. Now, if you want to take this whole concept of taking our passions to the top level, let's talk about my friend Paul Phillips. Paul is one of the best extreme long-range shooters in the world. Now, I'm not talking about long-range shooting. You see these guys on TV, oh, they're shooting 600 yards. Yeah, that's long. I couldn't do it. I did, but under Paul's guidance, I did. But when you start talking shooting miles, that's extreme long-range shooting. Paul Phillips is with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to talk more about this and just how far they can push this envelope. Paulie, my friend, welcome back. How are you?
Getting a little warm, Mike.
It's getting a little warm, isn't it? Hey, listen, if you were to go out and try to make an extreme long-range shot on a day like we've got today, a hot day, a muggy day, how does that affect your accuracy?
You know, it affects it quite a bit, actually. We deal with temperature, and temperatures affects our burn rates, which gives us a higher velocity, and a higher velocity gives us a different trajectory. So kind of a basic math. I did some powder temp testing at one time, several times actually over the years, and we came down for every degree that gave us 1 foot per second faster velocity with the powder that we were using. So if it was to raise, let's say we were testing in Midland at 60 degrees, and we went out to somewhere in Arizona or New Mexico and it was 90, we'd have to add 30 feet per second onto our ballistic solver, which would be, 30, 40, 50 feet difference at a mile or two.
So hey, listen, at 100 yards, that's not a big deal. You start talking about your distances, everything becomes a big deal, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
So, Paul, how far out are you pushing things these days? I mean, you hear about the king of 2 mile. 2 miles is a heck of a shot, but you guys are going way beyond that now.
Yeah, the big open public competition started in 2015 with King of 2 Mile when it started. And they were hitting targets just under 2,000 yards, which is, about a mile, right around a mile. And now the majority of people are hitting targets at 2 miles in competition. Now, we also do exhibition for purposes of testing and learning and working with manufacturers to make things better. A lot of exciting things going on. They're making new sights and barrels and bullets and cartridges and a lot of different things that's helping us. But we actually, in the last couple of years, made shots at 3.4 and 4 miles. And now we're going to try 5 miles this year. Yeah, 5 miles.
5 miles?
Yeah.
That's crazy, Paul.
It's pretty exciting, and we're just going to keep going until we run into something that we can't do. And while we're doing it, we're learning, right? We're learning all types of things: mirage, temperature, lighting. When clouds go over, it changes the refraction. I went to the eye doctor this morning, and I've been experimenting with different types of glasses. Pila Sport has sponsored me, and they have a lot of Olympic shooters that use our glasses, and they're much clearer and more precise. And I noticed at the range one time I was trying different glasses, your cheap readers and stuff, and what a difference. I mean, my groups were way off from using no glasses to good glasses. So, that's a general point of understanding that everybody could use when they change glasses or bifocals or no eye protection. It can make a big difference on what you see through your scope.
So many different variables, so many different factors at your level. But I got to go back here. Paul, where do you even find some place that you can shoot 5 miles?
Pretty hard in Michigan.
Yeah.
We go to, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. I'm leaving tomorrow for Wyoming to shoot in it's called a Night Force Steel Challenge ELR match. It's target 800 to 2,100 yards. And it's like, steel plates made out of elk, silhouettes, mule deer, antelope, turkeys, that sort of thing. More a hunter style match. But most of the ranges that we deal with are out in desert areas or out in the western areas where there's open plains, Kansas. Michigan's it's pretty tough. So usually I'm traveling right now, get to locations to shoot.
What's the reason for this? Why are you doing this? Who benefits from this? I mean, you're not going to hunt at 5 miles. So what's behind this all, Paul?
We're learning. We're learning the exhibition shooting and the competition. We keep pushing the envelope. I guess the easiest way to say this, Mike, is again 5, 6, 7 years ago, when I tried to shoot a target at a mile, I would be lucky to hit a 6x6, 6 foot by 6 foot target 2 or 3 times out of 10. Well, now we can dial in our ballistics and shoot a 10-shot group instead of a 12-inch circle. And even you hit within 6 inches of the center of the first shot. So that proves that we are learning and we are getting better. And this is all, going to the military and long-range hunters and, people that can apply this stuff through technology of everything from science of ballistic solvers, computer programs, applications, things we're learning in bullet technology and design, barrel manufacturing and design, optics and design. Everything just keeps pushing so our military and long-range hunters can be more successful and reach out farther.
Now, you're a military man. You're a Marine. Are you?
Yes, sir.
Are you working with your brothers on this project? Is there a connection here directly, or are they just benefiting peripherally from what you guys are doing?
Both, really. I mean, I was invited by the Marine Corps Scout Sniper Association to come teach a clinic in October.
Wow.
To the Marine Corps Scout Sniper Association and the Army Sniper Association, along with their procurement people and some VIPs to see what we're doing in the competitive world and see how they might be able to piggyback or learn something from what we're doing. And it's exciting for me. It's a time to get back to my roots when I used to serve in the military, but it's kind of exciting to be honored to come do something like that for the military.
Well, that's the word I was thinking of. This has got to be an honor for you.
Absolutely, yeah. It's fun, too, because, I'm going to be retiring in 5 months.
Good for you.
And I can start to have some fun with this stuff.
Well, and when you retire, like your company, your website, globalprecisiongroup.llc.com, obviously revolves all around extreme long-range shooting. But when you get more time on your hands, where's the direction you're going? Just continued evolution, continue pushing the envelope?
Yeah, whatever directions they're asked of me, whether it be civilians that want to shoot long range or compete. I travel all over the world to do classes and help people, or whether it be the military, the law enforcement reach out to me also. They may not want to shoot 5 miles, but let's say they want to be able to hit targets out to 500 and keep them in side of an egg size group or orange, to stay up with technology. We saw the horrific, tragic incident in Las Vegas where the guy was just flailing away at the crowd, distance of 300 to 600 yards away. He was taking shots at people, and they didn't really have an answer for that, and they need to. The law enforcement community needs to have an answer to these type of, tragic incidents. And So hopefully I can play a part in that and help them out.
I'm sure you will, Paul. Hang tight. We've got to take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. We're talking with Paul Phillips, one of the best extreme long-range shooters literally in the world. This is not an exaggeration at all. This is not hype. It's a proven fact. His website, globalprecisiongroup.llc.com, globalprecisiongroup.llc.com. They're looking at shooting 5 miles. That is amazing. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Manistee on WMLQ. That's 97.7 FM. You can hear us just down the coastline in Muskegon on WKBZ 1090 AM. And let's jump over to the other side of the state, the other coastline, WPHM in Port Huron 1380 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader Landscaping can take care of your property, your lawn, your property, because it's your nature and our nurture. They can create an outdoor getaway in your backyard. They can maintain the property that you have. Right now, with it being so hot, right, you want your sprinkler system working to its maximum efficiency. The folks from Reader can help you out with that. When it cools down a little bit, I've got them coming over to trim some trees for me. I'm actually mowing my own lawn. I like doing that. I do it for the exercise. I use a hand mower, but if you don't want to deal with it, and let the folks from Reader come in and mow your lawn even, because every hour they spend working for you, it's an hour you can spend in the outdoors, hunting or fishing, or maybe going to the range. If you want to learn more about Reader, check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. If you're on the range, the rifle range, not the close-up range, not the long range, but the extreme long range, you might see Michigan-based Paul Phillips there. Paul is honestly one of the best extreme long-range shooters in the world. You can learn more about him and what he's involved in on his website, globalprecisiongroup.llc.com, globalprecisiongroup.llc.com. Paul, a question I've asked you before, but I find it fascinating. When you're making these multi-mile shots, at what angle do you have to put your gun barrel? I mean, are you shooting like 45 degrees into the air, and how high is your bullet going to hit the target that far away?
The 4-mile shot we did, it was around 900 minutes of angle, which is 15-degree barrel angle. It's not as much as what you may think.
Yeah.
The time of flight was around 23 seconds, and they call it max ordnance, the distance from the ground up. Gosh, I have to think back here. I don't have my notes in front of me, but
that's all right.
It was around, I think, 1,300 feet was the elevation. I could be wrong, though.
But that gives us a pretty good, a reference point. But 23 seconds in the air, Paul, there are so many things that can happen in 23 seconds to affect that bullet and bullet flight.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, we've been learning a lot with shooting at these extreme distances with what, the mirage and the heat and the light with clouds and sun, shooting with glasses and no glasses. It really intensifies every little detail, and we're learning those details, and we're able to apply it to the competitions where we're only shooting 2 miles. So in 19, which is the last competition we had for the King of 2 Mile, my 3-man team, we took first, third, and fourth out of 80. So it's obvious that we are learning from what we're doing, and we're proving it and vetting it in a real competition. So that's the main thing, is we're having fun doing these exhibition shots. We're learning a lot, but then we're applying it in competition. And like anybody else says, you can do what you want when you're practicing, but when the time comes where you have to compete in front of your peers the same day, the same distance, the same size targets and the same distances, that's where you really see how well you do in front of your peers.
Well, I find it interesting you say only shooting 2 miles. I mean, that says a lot right there, only shooting 2 miles. Paul, what do you I mean, what caliber? I used to think of a 50 cal as like the ultimate extreme long range sniping round, but I think you guys have gone way beyond that, haven't you?
We actually stepped down in caliber size. We're using a 416. The top calibers now in 2021 are 416, 460, and some people are still using the 338 with great success. So it seems to be that those cartridges, you get most bang for the buck, the most performance. The 50s were kind of designed for more like anti-personnel.
Gotcha.
Busting through walls and through doors and stuff like that, But the accurate rounds that we're shooting are the 416, the 460, and the 375 caliber. Yeah.
What if I want to bring this back to more of an everyman or every woman or a hunter's level here? If I took my 300 Win Mag and I practiced with it, and I was buying just off the shelf stuff, none of this custom stuff, what kind of accuracy could I get out of that gun if I tried?
I would say that you'd be able to get 5 to 6 inch groups at 500 yards.
Wow.
If there was low or no wind, right? Perfect conditions type situation. I think that you could probably hit a mile with it, with given enough shots. Maybe I think you could hit a mile within 5 or 10 shots. The group size may not be that great. Maybe 18 to 24 inches, maybe a little bit bigger, maybe 36 inches. But there's guys that are shooting 223 out to a mile now.
And speaking of dropping down in size, there was a time when you and I talked that you guys were looking at doing a 22 caliber long range shooting. Have you had the time to make anything happen with that yet?
We do, actually. I just purchased 1,000 22 bullets made by Cutting Edge. They're solids. That means they're monolithic. They're machined on a machine. They're solid brass, copper, brass, and we're going to be attempting a mile shot with a 22 rimfire.
Wow.
I'm going to have to get you out and do that. That's going to be fun.
that actually, to me, seems very exciting because the expense won't be there. The recoil's not going to be there. Everybody's got a 22 they could play with. So I think that's very exciting, Paul.
Yeah, they're starting matches all over the country. The nice thing about this is the ELR matches that we run go from like 200 to 600. So if you can imagine a 22 rimfire shooting 600 yards, that's like a big bore caliber shooting 2 miles.
Yeah, that's very impressive. Hey, are companies coming to you at this point to say, Paul Phillips, help us design new products? I mean, I would think your expertise, your input would be extremely valuable for these manufacturers.
I do. I've been sought out by a few companies and an ammunition company, and I'm still doing testing and evaluating for several. But yeah, they're starting to reach out to me, and it's been awesome. I'm having lots of fun with it, and they have someone that they can count on to give them good feedback and what the enthusiast competitors, military snipers, law enforcement snipers, what they need, what they want.
I feel like Michigan is kind of a hotbed for extreme long-range shooting, even though we don't have these multi-mile ranges. Or maybe it's just me being a proud Michigan guy. I'm just maybe I'm looking at it from that perspective. But we do have a real strong extreme long-range shooting contingent here, don't we?
We do, yeah. We have the Ply Ballistics company near Grand Rapids. They've been doing all the science of accuracy and the ballistic solvers and all the accessories with range finders and scopes and kestrels, weather stations in hand. And they do a lot of stuff with the military. That's been a huge push in the whole world. They're known worldwide. We also have a huge shooter base that have been competing at a world-class level for the last 20 years. So yeah, we've got a really good base of extreme long-range shooters in Michigan.
Paul, if somebody wants to explore this. Now, obviously, they're probably not going to get to the level that you are, but, somebody's an average Michigan whitetail hunter. They got an 0.6, the 300 Win Mag, or, whatever. And they want to get into this concept. They want to play with this concept of extending their accurate range. How do we get started? Where do we go?
You can always go on my website and send me a message, or my Facebook account, send me a message, and I can, depending on what you guys want to do, specifically whether it be hunting, recreation, competitive, I can steer in the right direction. Obviously, you can go to classes, you can go to competitions and watch. There's lots of different ways to get involved and participate, and depending on what you want to do.
So there are classes? There are classes out there that teach this type of thing at a level obviously much lower than you are?
Yes.
I didn't know.
My company, I'll be starting to do that once I retire in 5 months. I'm going to start doing some basic, intermediate, and advanced courses.
Oh, you'll have people lining up for that, Paul. You will. And I noticed twice now you said, when I retire in 5 months. It's not like you're counting down the days or anything, are you?
Oh, you got that right. It's been a long career, Mike. I left for the Marine Corps when I was 18, and I've been working pretty much 24/7, 7 days a week, and now I'm 53. So it's been a long go.
And you've been working in public safety and protection and law enforcement. And Paul, you've just done a wonderful job of helping to take care of people around you. And I think, to be honest with you, I think improving society. So kudos, my friend.
Thank you. It's been challenging, I mean, we all know, we've been watching social media and the news about policing and military, and it's a real challenge these days. And, my prayers and my thoughts go out to all the young cops and their careers, and, it's needed. We need them, and it's just a difficult time right now.
Well, you keep up the good work. I am so excited to kind of follow you on this 5-mile challenge now. Good luck with the impending upcoming retirement. And you and I will stay in touch.
Absolutely. No, we'll definitely be letting you know what's happening with that. We're just waiting on the last few prototype items to be built, and then we're going to go attack it in Kansas. I got a landowner out there that's given me permission to use his land, where we have actually about 6 miles of land with no crossroads and no public interference. So that's going to be very much needed for this endeavor.
Don't tell Paul Phillips you've got a 6-mile range, because he's going to go out and make the most of it. Paul Phillips of Global Precision Group LLC, globalprecision.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, I got a few more thoughts, and then of course we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner. I wonder how his plans are coming to reopen Oscar and Joey's. He keeps teasing me with this. And speaking of that, now that the restaurants are opening up, we're working on plans to have a couple of more Wednesday night lives at Oscar and Joey's and the Lumberjack restaurant in West Branch as well. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Sandusky on WMIC, AM and FM, 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us in Saginaw on another AM-FM combo, WSTW, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. In fact, I am in their studios right now. But as you know, in this small part of the building during these 3 hours, it's known as the Outdoor Magazine Studio. And I have a graphic. I have a logo behind me to prove it. Also, Pat Johnston sitting here with me. He'll vouch for me. He'll verify it. Pat doing a wonderful job as always. I do certainly appreciate that. As I appreciate you being along with me as well, because if you weren't listening, there'd be no reason to do this. And we've had this conversation before. I wouldn't know what to do at this point in my life. Also, too, a reminder, this segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by my friends at Wilds Plumbing and Heating. From plumbing, heating, air conditioning, sump pumps, ductwork cleaning, tuning up your air conditioning unit, everything to keep you cool this time of year, dry, comfortable. The folks from Wilds can help you out, as they have for me so many years. I strongly encourage you to check them out. Their website is wildsplumbingandheating.com. That's wildsplumbingandheating.com. I always enjoy my conversations with Paul Phillips. I've known Paul, Denise and I, my wife, we call him Paulie. We've known him forever, and he's always been Paulie to us. Known him for a long time. Well before he ever gained the prominence that he has these days as a world-renowned extreme long-range shooter. Very, very interesting guy, and it's fun to be able to talk with him on the air and help him tell his story. It's very rewarding for me in general to bring people on the air here and listen to them talk and share their expertise and share their stories. It's one of the reasons why I still enjoy what I'm doing. And I do still enjoy it. The fact that I can sit at this microphone every week and talk with you is a tremendous blessing. So thank you once again for your support. I would ask for your prayers, though. Pray for Avery. Pray that Avery figures out those deeper water walleye. How's that for a transition? Earlier in the show, I was saying that I'm struggling. I'll be completely honest with you. I am struggling in an area that I don't normally struggle with, and that's catching walleye, summertime Saginaw Bay walleye. I've had to move to deeper water because the water on the bay is absolutely crystal clear up in shallow where I love to fish, and it's devoid of fish midday. Now I suspect if I went up there at night, there's probably fish in there, but they're not going to be there in the daytime right now when it's this clear. So I've had to move out to deeper water. I even resorted last week to allowing one of my friends, Tony, to sneak crawlers on the Angler Quest. And you know how much I fought that. But I thought, hey, if it'll help me catch fish in there skinny, I'm willing to do it. But we went up in there even with crawlers, with flicker shads and crawlers, and couldn't get a fish. And at that time said, you know what? For me, the skinny water bite is not going to happen this summer unless something drastically changes very fast. So I've had to move out to deeper water, and I'm struggling. I've tried flicker shads. I have tried spoons. I have tried lead core. I've tried tadpoles. I've tried jet divers. And I don't even remotely pretend to have them dialed in yet. But I'll keep working at them. But it's frustrating if I let it be, just because it's a position that I'm not in, and my confidence isn't there. And I was thinking about this earlier. This really points out that how important confidence is in our outdoor cravings, our outdoor passions. Think about it. In your hunting or activities, if you have confidence in what you're doing, you will approach it in a different way. Let's not be too esoteric here, Avery, but let's extend this to life in general. If you are confident in yourself and confident in what you are doing, you will perform in a confident manner, and that confidence leads to more success, which leads to more confidence. It's the same thing with fishing. If I can get things dialed back in to where I'm confident in where I'm fishing, how I'm fishing, and what I'm fishing, I will approach it from a perspective where when I go out there, I know I'm going to get into fish, so I will get into fish, and that'll lead to more confidence. Whether it's bait choice, bait color, depth, or whatever. But this is all part of this challenge that I love so much. And I say this probably too often, and you're probably sick of hearing about it, but in today's world, today's technological, digitally oriented world, we are so used to being in control of our day-to-day life. If we press a button, or if we move a screen, or if we click some keys, something's going to happen. But when you get away from that, and when you get out into the real world, when you get out into the natural world, where you have no control over the weather, you have no control over Mother Nature, you have no control of whether the deer, the bear, the turkeys, whatever, are going to cooperate. You have no control over whether the fish are going to cooperate. It adds a whole different feel for life. And I like that. I like the challenge. I don't always like the challenge. I'm not going to tell you that. There are days, last couple of times out there, I've wanted to beat my head against the wall of the Angler Quest. But I haven't. And I'll keep at it. And I'll have fun every minute I'm out there. Whether we're on fish or not, I will have fun every minute I'm out there because it's the experience that is the experience, right? We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. So glad to have you along with us. You can always join me during the week. Head to the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Send me an email to Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Or follow me on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and on Twitter as well. And we can have some conversations there. Just like I'm about to do with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner, who helps us wrap up each week's Outdoor Magazine show. And he's with us once again. David, my friend, welcome back. How are you?
Good to be back, and I am doing very well. And yourself, Michael?
Oh, really good. Really good. I'm just, it's a little bit hot. The weather's a little warmer than what we'd like. But if we didn't have the weather to complain about, what would we gripe about?
I don't know. I'm used to the hot of the kitchen. Get back to being useful again to that, hopefully soon.
Soon? Good.
It doesn't bother me that much.
Well, Dave, I've seen you come out of that kitchen, and it was so hot back there. It was like a sauna, and it's interesting. It's my impression. Your hands are so immune to heat. I see you pick up things that would make me blister, and you don't even feel it.
You get them calluses on your hand. Anybody that's in the kitchen a long time, that develops. I'm going to have to get back into that routine of handling hot stuff so I get my hands back to great shape.
I will look forward to that. Any update you want to share with us?
Not really. Still need one more cook and one more waitress. If anybody's interested, great money.
All right, sounds good. In the meantime, how about a recipe for us?
Well, I've got a Baton Rouge walleye. It's a simmered dish. People down south, New Orleans and Alabama and like that, they like their simmered food, whether it's, say, pork chops or seafood. But they do a lot of, like, gumbos or what have you. But this is going to be for 4 portions, and it's a walleye. You could use a lot of other kind of fish, too. Anything as long as it's firm. Cod would work probably pretty good, too. So you need about 8 ounces or so of boneless, skinless per person, a 12-ounce package of fresh mushrooms sliced thin, about a third or maybe a little more of diced onions, fine. You'll need a couple eggs beaten up very well, a little bit of flour to dredge the fish in, and about half to 3/4 of a stick of fresh butter. You can't use margarine in this. It's not going to work. You need about 5 ounces of dry or white wine. If you were drinking Chardonnay with this meal, by all means use that. A little bit of fresh chopped parsley, lemon juice to your taste. And down south, they like spicy stuff, so I'm going to add to this Cajun spice, or you could put cayenne. And I like to put about 3/4 of a cup of diced tomatoes and the same amount of green peppers. So you're going to, about 4 or 5 cloves of garlic. It's up to your taste, So you're going to dredge the fish in flour in a real nice hot pan, dip them in the beaten up eggs, and then brown them with the rib skin side up, so when you turn it, you got only one time, so you got the nice side looking at the diner. So what you're going to do after you get them browned off, you're going to put them on a baking sheet or a casserole deep enough to hold a lot of this other stuff. So, and then also you're going to have, once you do that, you're going to put everything in the pan, like the white wine, the mushrooms, the onions, the butter, the lemon juice, and you're going to leave that uncovered. You want to cook that down. Now, a variation of this is you're going to put diced up shrimp, maybe 4 per person, 10 to 12 ounces of scallops. If you're going to use the big ones, you might want to cut them in half, and 1 to 1.5 pounds of fresh mussels, debearded. That means you take where it attaches itself to the rock, you pull that part out because it never cooks up good. So you've got this all reducing down nicely, and you got the tomatoes, the green pepper, everything else is cooking, simmering nicely. So when that's a little bit thick, because all of the seafood is going to cast off some liquid, arrange all of the vegetables on top of each one of the fillets, and then the juice, and then put on each of the fillets the shrimp, scallops, and mussels. Divide that kind of up equally. And you're going to bake it 350 degrees, not very long. It's only going to take 8 to 10 minutes. You don't want to overcook stuff. When the mussels open up, just cook them for just a little while longer, and then the dish should be all nicely finished. What I like to do, and down south what they do too, is they eat a lot of rice. And so they ring their plate with rice and make like a nest in the middle of it of the goodies. But this, you're going to have longer fillets, so you're going to use a platter. And so you're going to ring the platter with the nice fluffy white rice, put the fish fillet down, and spoon everything else on top of it, divide everything up equally amongst the diners. And there's your Baton Rouge walleye.
It sounds wonderful, and I can't wait to be able to come back to Oscar and Joey's and try your cooking in person once again, Dave.
Me neither.
We'll look forward to it. We'll make a plan.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Everybody have a safe and sane week.
Wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Miner, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you. I can't say this enough, because if you weren't listening, there would be no reason to do the show. And I look forward to this every week. People say, hey, Avery, you thinking about retiring yet? Yeah, I've thought about it. I've thought about it and firmly and immediately discarded the notion of retiring. There's no way in the world. Why would I retire? I love what I'm doing. It allows me to talk about hunting and fishing, which is something I would do anyway. It allows me to talk with interesting people, knowledgeable people who want to share that information, and so I want to pass that along to you. Again, the website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Check me out on any of the social media outlets. Don't forget to watch our Wednesday night lives on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter as well. My name is Mike Avery, and I will talk with you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.